right, good evening, everyone. It's 5:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Malini Sims. I'm a principal planner with the town, and I'm joined tonight by Renee Overa, senior planner with the town. I just want to say it's great to see all of your faces again. I hope everyone is doing well. Tonight's focus is to update you and prepare for the big community review of the draft plan. And if it's all right with everybody, we're going to go ahead and dive right in. I do have a short presentation, but then definitely want to hear more from all of you. Would love to see your faces if you're able to turn your cameras on. Um, but there's always the chat function as well if you need to participate that way. So just one moment as I start the presentation. All right, so again, tonight we just want to make sure everybody's prepared for the big community review that will start next week and go through the end of October. So part of that is giving you a little bit of a progress update on where the plan is now. We also want to get your comments and thoughts on the website, as this is the town's first web-based plan. I really do appreciate all of your time to explore the site and give your suggestions on ways to improve it. I also want to let everyone know that this isn't the last time for you to provide comments on the website, but as a focus group, it was really helpful getting your initial ideas and reactions. As always, I do promise to end the meeting on time, which is 7 p.m. tonight. And so we will wrap up our conversation with the process moving forward, as well as upcoming opportunities to stay involved. So just quickly, a reminder that about the ground rules that everyone's accepted. I need everyone's help to make sure that this meeting is efficient and productive. And I'm sure all of you are excited that we will be using the whiteboard again this evening. So just again, as a reminder, you can navigate the whiteboard by using the navigation menu in the lower right-hand corner. This allows you to move around the board as well as zoom in and zoom out. So we'll be using this for the bulk of our discussion this evening. So first and foremost, I want to thank you all for your time and commitment to this process. Roughly 116 residents participated in 25 meetings to produce what was known as the 30% draft plan. The 30% draft was a compilation of all 4 resident working groups guiding principles, goals, policies, and actions. And the last time we spoke, you had been asked to review the 30% draft, which between your comments, those from boards and commissions, as well as town council, we received over 300 comments on that draft, which is huge. And the majority of the comments were incorporated into the 60% draft, which will be publicized next week. Just some things that you can look forward to is there were really no major shifts between the 30% draft and what you're going to see in the 60% draft. A lot of the comments asked to clarify and broaden the language, especially when we were using jargon or abbreviations. We also went from, or you also went from 255 actions to 270 actions. So there were a good amount of comments of areas that there might still need to be addressed or where there were gaps. So there were some actions added. What you'll also see, and you've kind of seen a little bit just reviewing the website, is that the 60% draft also starts prioritizing these actions by assigning anticipated timeframes as well as town departments to make sure that the town is held accountable to the plan. I do want to let everyone know that the timeframes as well as the departments, they may change throughout the next 10 years, but it really helps give a basis to start implementing the plan after voter approval. So in addition to the revised guiding principles, goals, policies, and actions, this is also the first comprehensive version of the plan that is being released to the public. As many of you commented looking at the website, there is a lot of information, and that's because it includes all the introductions, maps, resources, glossary, basically all the components that make the plan a plan. This, and as you are all aware, this is also the first web-based plan for the town. There will be a PDF supplement that will be added to the website before it's promoted next week. So the PDF will allow people to download the plan, print it out, and also just read it in a more linear fashion. So that will be linked on every page, so it's easily accessible. Um, it won't have any graphics though, or photos. Those will be added before the next iteration of the plan goes out. All right, so let's talk about the website. Again, I want to thank you all for going through it and offering your reactions and suggestions for improvement. This may seem like a menial task, but it's actually the first time that the town has gone out to the community to see how a website will work for you. So in our mind, it's really appreciated and it really is a big deal and continues to ensure that this process is resident driven to create the 10-year plan. Now, before we get into your comments, I want to briefly walk through the site and give some background. First, having the web-based plan does offer convenience. It increases accessibility to the plan, and equally important is it improves transparency of the review process because folks will be able to not go online starting next week, share their comments, but also see other people's comments as well. Some assumptions that we made that drove the design of the website is we assume that the majority of residents will go to the website to focus on their area of interest. Most people are not going to read the entire website, and that's the same if it's a web-based plan or a printed plan. Most people aren't reading the whole document. They're just going to where what they care about. Another assumption we made is that people will not want to bounce around a lot to find information. So we tried to balance the amount of information on each page, the amount of scrolling you have to do, with the amount of times you have to click around to find different things. So with that said, that's why you will see, and you did see some repetition on the pages, is we just aren't, we made these assumptions that people aren't going to go through every page. So I'm going to stop there for a moment. Do those assumptions, do you all agree with those? Do those make sense? Are there any questions? Okay, I'm seeing head nods. Okay, so some constraints we have with the website, we are limited by the software we're using, and a lot of your comments, we hear you on these ones. Unfortunately, we're a little stuck with some of them. So one is, depending on if you're on a desktop, a laptop, an iPad, a phone, your view is going to be different. The website, unfortunately, does not hold like picture sizes, for instance, or graphic sizes, or even the window size, depending on device. So we will continue to try to add information on the website that lets people know that viewing is best on a desktop or laptop, but also when on a phone to make sure you're using full screen mode, because that helps a lot. That leads to the next one. The images do not hold their sizes depending on device. So for some devices, they do come out very small, unfortunately, and then for others, they're very large. The layout is pretty preset, so I'll kind of talk about that here in a moment a little bit more. And the website does not allow pop-ups or bops. So what I mean there is if you go to some websites, you'll get a splash page popping up, kind of giving you some extra details. We aren't able to do that with this website. But with all of that said, there's still a lot of opportunity for improvement. So for instance, we could move things around on the page to make sure what's most important to folks is at the very top. We could definitely replace pictures and change the size of pictures as well as fonts. And then other things that might be missing or not intuitive to folks. So with that, I do want to just kind of go through a couple pages on the website. Let me. Okay. So this is the home page for those of you who didn't have a chance to look at it. Now on the home page, and this will be changing next week, there are the opportunities to get involved, including the meeting for tonight, as well as upcoming opportunities. There's a quick overview of the plan. So this has the links to the vision and guiding principles, goals, policies, and actions. Those are two very important parts of the plan. And then links to the main chapter, as well as some frequently asked questions and the ways to contact. Now on the home page, and I hope I'm not making anyone dizzy, those chapters, all the chapters are also linked at the top of everyone's screen, and that top bar with all the chapters as well as the search is on the top of every single screen throughout the website. There's kind of two different templates we used in terms of the design. So one is the introduction. So every chapter has an introduction. And you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen where it says helpful resources, PDF of the plan, all of that stuff. So this is where this format is, we cannot change it. So this is, we did get some comments of make this smaller because as you guys all pointed out, the most important stuff is on the left-hand side of the screen, and especially depending on your device, it gets squished down. Unfortunately, though, that is the layout that we are given and it cannot be changed. But with that said, each introduction starts with a photo and then some helpful links, and everything is also linked on the side. So if you want to go to a different chapter, you have the side over here if you don't want to scroll all the way back up to the top. And then the goals. And that's the same for the topic area. So every chapter introduction and every topic area introduction looks the same pretty much in terms of instead of a photo though, on the topic introductions, you do have the guiding principles, but then you get right to the goals. Now the goal pages, they all also look the same. When you get to there, you have the goal at the very top, a little introduction of what a goal is, and then you have your policies and it gets right into your actions and the departments that are assigned to those to carry them out. And we'll go through, you guys gave some good suggestions on ways to improve readability of these. On these goal pages, you can also get to all the other goals within this chapter. If you're, you can also get to other chapters too, if you want to get to there. So that's a really quick overview of the website. I am putting in the chat a link to OV Path Forward. So again, if you didn't have a chance to get to it before this meeting, you can always click on that and then you can be referencing it during the meeting. All right, so with that, I am going to launch our whiteboard and kind of go through what we heard from you and then want to hear from you guys.
Melanie,
Yes.
if you're on the website and you have a question, maybe I missed it. Is there a way to ask the question and get an answer on the from through the website, or how do they do that?
Yeah, so the only way right now is to contact the team. So our email and phone numbers on every page, as well as the bottom of the home page. So there's not a way to do it through the website. You would have to click on the email link and send us an email.
Okay, thank you.
No, good question. All right, so this is our whiteboard for tonight. You can see there's 4 areas we're going to go through. One is looking at the amount of information. We got a lot of comments just on that in terms of how much information is being presented on the website. I will say it is a 160-page PDF. that got transformed into a website. So it is, to all of your points, very information heavy. Then we want to talk about organization and navigation, how we can improve that. Um, Going over then to look and design, which is in our green area. And then we'll end up with just some other comments and also last comments from you all. So I'm going to move us back just to kind of give a quick overview on what we heard on some of our questions. So I'm on the graphs if you're moving around yourself. So we did ask you all if you were able to find the vision and guiding principles, whether you went through the home page or you went through one of the navigation menus. Um, we are, um, we did hear that for the most part, you were able to find it. It was pretty easy, but some of you were neutral. So maybe not easy or not difficult, either way. Same with ease of finding goals and policies. It seems like overall you guys were able to find those, which is really important. And then with regards to finding topics, again, this is what we assume most people are going to do. They're going to go and they just want to know, where do I find information about public safety or about parks? And so we did see that there was some more difficulty in that area of trying to find the topics you were interested in. And then overall navigation, it seems like it was between somewhat intuitive and easy, but there are definitely some pinch points that you guys picked up on that were difficult. So with that, I do want to start us in the yellow section in terms of the amount of information. So I'll give everyone a moment to kind of look through these. There's some general comments, and then in terms of ways to improve what we heard is, possibly streamline the information, and a good amount of comments about just moving the important stuff to the top. So take a moment, read through these. If you made one of the comments, please feel free to raise your hand to expand upon it or clarify. And then also, like I said, you could also put things into the chat. So I did see Michael, that you appreciate it. So Michael, thank you for checking on a desktop as well as on your phone. So yeah, if you guys were able to use different devices, please let us know too, which type of device you use. That's helpful. So Sherry?
Yeah, just overall, really good job. Love the colors, love the photographs. It's when you get behind the homepage that things get kind of sticky. Um, so could you explain a little bit, since we're talking about just overall overwhelming amount of information? I know you want people to go to the topics that they're interested in, but how did you envision from the homepage people getting there?
Sure. So from the home page, and if I need to bring it back up, let me know. There's a couple ways people might get to the topics. Mostly it will be that very top navigation menu, or scrolling down to the bottom where it has the main chapters. And although community sticks out more, it does say this includes public safety, parks, and everything. So those are the two main ways from the home page. But we're open to ideas. If there's concern that people won't use that top navigation menu, maybe we need to add more to that main chapters or break it up even more. Again, we're trying to balance the amount of scrolling versus the information. So I'll turn it to you guys of if you think that's the best ways to get to the topics, or if there's a better way we should look at in the home screen.
Well, I'll just jump in here. My experience has been that people don't like to scroll, right?
Yeah.
And if you're on a phone, you have clickable options that you could do. So I know in the tips section there was the tree that had all the main topics and then the goals underneath them. And somebody else commented this too, is I thought that would be a really great tool to bring forward on the web pages so people just can click where they want to go, right? And then once they get in the back end, then they can go ahead and click through the goals or whatever.
Great, thank you. And I did get we did see the comment too, and it makes perfect sense that when you click on that tree, So for those not aware, if you go to the navigating the website and tips, there's a graphic that shows community and then it has all the subtopics. And understandably, when you click on it, it's just one image that goes to the community section. It doesn't go to public safety. So we can fix that so that each topic goes to where it's supposed to go. But yeah, good idea to bring that forward. And then Rosa?
Yeah, that was my comment because I was really like kind of shocked at how confused I was when I knew what was there, like, because I was just about in every meeting. So I know what the content was. So I had to like, okay, let me go into navigation and see how they want us to navigate. And then when I noticed that that was live to an extent, I thought, you know what? That would really give people the ability to see the whole scope and to be able to kind of like scroll down without moving from the page, you know, a very little short scroll, and then click on whatever they thought looks interesting. Because I know you think people are only going to look at the topics they're interested in, but I really think that because this is such a comprehensive document and because people are going to be asked to vote on it, I think people are going to read more of it than you think. So anyway, yeah, that was my comment. Other than like the things you said that you can't, that's hard to fix. The only thing I would try and fix if you can is the font of the top menu across the top that has the pull downs. It is so tiny compared to everything else. And I know you have to fit it across horizontally, but if just a tad bigger and maybe a little closer to everything else that's there, I think it would be a little bit more intuitive. But other than that, it's a lot of information, and no matter what, it's going to be cumbersome. So those are my comments.
Great, thank you. And yeah, we can look in that top menu. And then just gonna go through some comments we're seeing in the chat. Using bullet points, we will try to get those in as much as possible. Yeah, we could definitely add that tree to the homepage so everybody sees the full scope. And then I did see another comment about reducing the photo size. So I think some people made some comments that the photos take a lot of real estate right when you open each page. So, and that kind of goes into these comments about moving the important things to the top. So maybe we could definitely switch the photos with some of those main links so that you know when you get to that page what's on it before you see a big photo. So seems like I'm seeing head nods. And then Jeff?
So this is probably not actionable, but I just wanted to weigh in, and I agree with what a couple of people have already said. I think the notion may be that I'm going to go to this thing and I'm just going to look at something I'm interested in. But I think if they see a well-designed heading of the topics, I think people are going to say, oh, no, wait a minute. No, I do want to see about this as well. Oh, and this is also, I want to see about this. I came here to look at this one thing, but I think people are going to say, oh, no, I want to look at more. So I think that initial heading on the web, on the homepage is going to be important to get people to dig down into that, because I think they will be interested.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. And that's a good point is, you're right. People will probably be encouraged to read more, and we want people to read the whole plan. Ultimately, you're voting on it. So I appreciate these comments to try to encourage them to versus just going to one area. And then I got another comment about having an executive summary in addition to the tree, so that could be helpful too on the homepage. And then Michael?
So yeah, I thought a little hard to do here, but this is what the beginning of the website looks on the phone. And I think it's interesting because if you look at, compare this to what you see on the website, the graphic, the graphic is nice and you can see it. But it definitely is, again, goes back to that real estate thing. And I think a lot of people, I know probably not this group, because we're all plugged into our computers or laptops, but I think a lot of people are going to look at this on their phone. And again, I think this works pretty well on the phone. That's it. Yep. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael. And we got the stats for phone users versus desktop users and laptop users. And and it's about 70% are accessing the site right now with the laptop or desktop. But we're and unfortunately there are those constraints for a phone, but we definitely want to make sure it's working on a phone, because especially when we're out in events or when you guys are talking about it, most people are going to want to bring it up right there on the phone. So really appreciate, Michael, that you took the time to look at it on a phone. Okay. Other comments about how we can organize the information a bit better, just because there is so much of it. Keith.
Sorry, I had to unmute. I know, a lot of websites people go to, if you want to reduce the amount of content that people see immediately,
Mhm.
you could make it smaller, and then if they want to see more, you hit basically a little more button. And that way you can get more there, but you can also, they can read a little bit and say, hey, if they like that, I want to read more, they see it, or versus seeing everything at once. So that might be a way to do it. I don't know what other people think, but I found that useful on other sites.
No, that's a good idea. And on some of the pages for the like for some of the pages, we were able to use drop-down menus, where you can use that. I will say, that works on some of them. On some of the other the goals pages, we weren't able to implement that on there in a way that was readable, but we can use those more too. And like you said, more links. So looks like Sherry had her hand up, and then Bill.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention is I noticed on when you got to the chapter pages, you had bulleted lists, and then within those lists are links. So what you can do is just incorporate the links into your introduction rather than have bulleted lists, because again, you're making people scroll to find things and they hate that. That's again coming from, a design background, that's been my experience. The other thing is your on your homepage, the main menu at the top is really, really small. You might want to make that font bigger. And if you can anchor that main masthead at the top, like with where the Ore Valley is, and then at the top where the drop-down menus are, so it appears on every page, that would also be helpful, because, and I think other people commented on that panel that I hated that panel. I wanted to close it. I wanted a button to close it so I didn't have to look at it. It makes it more overwhelming, and you don't want to discourage people, right? You want them to get in there and really look at things.
Yeah, so unfortunately the panel we're stuck with. Even,
Okay.
and that's what's interesting is even if you take everything off the panel, and it just still leaves this big blank white side. Because we thought, oh, that's how we'll get around that. No. And then the menu at the top, it is at the top of each page, but doesn't run with the page. So we can look into
Right.
that, as well as looking into how we can increase that font size. So appreciate that. Bill?
Yeah, this is a little out of order, but I didn't see. Seems to me if I'm going to a website and I don't know anything about it, I just know there's a general plan going on, and I want to see what it is. I might also want to know what the process is. A very quick in the very beginning on that first homepage or the first place you go. Here's where we are. Here's where it's going. Here's when you're voting on it. Kind of bullet point thing, so people understand how this happened, and they're now looking at it. They can say, oh well, this is where we are, this is where we are, this is where we are. So that's just a thought, because we got to assume that people are going to come on here who have not been involved at all.
No, very good point. And we definitely can add that to the homepage, a timeline. And I think James made that comment in the chat too. Make sure it's very clear that everybody's voting on this. So that's a good thing we can definitely add to the homepage. Okay, I'm gonna move us over to oh, sorry, Rosa. And you're muted, Rosa.
Sorry. I would say the only other thing is like main chapters. Since we have because I'm looking at it on the phone right now that, I'm thinking probably people will read it on their phone. So we should say like maybe 5 main chapters, or give how many, so that somebody
Oh, okay.
knows where. It's just helpful because you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and how do you know you got all of them? So
Right.
like 5 main chapters, and then I don't know, I hate to number things, but the purpose is to make sure everybody understands the scope of this thing pretty quickly. So that was the only thing, because now that I'm looking at it on my phone, I'm coming up with all kinds of other like observations that, and you're right, people probably will read this on their phone while they're sitting at practice with their kids or, whatever, wherever they are out and about. So that's that. And then you have a frequently asked questions at the bottom. Maybe, figure out a way to move like just the header of that someplace up top so they can, because that's where you talk about you're going to vote on this in the
Yeah.
frequently asked questions. It's one of the questions, like who approves the plan.
Right.
So it could maybe just be moving that up or something. But I mean, I think it looks good on the phone. I think it looks better on the phone than it does on the computer because it doesn't have the side thing.
That's
But,
true. That is a good point. When you're on the phone, it drops that side thing to the very bottom. So
It does. And then it's got that little 3-bar menu thing that's kind of standard on all things.
Yeah.
And that then gives you the whole tree,
Yeah.
like the whole thing.
Yep.
So it actually works better on the phone. So yeah, so I really think that just to say like 5 chapters or something, so people know that, how many sections there are intuitively.
Yep, no, that makes sense. And I think we got another comment on here. I can't find it right now, but it was the opportunities to get involved, which is pretty prominent right now. We will be moving that once this goes live next week because they're really for right now of like if people get to the site and they're wondering what do I do now. We wanted to be clear on that. That will definitely move as well. And then, yeah, we could definitely make the fonts bigger too as well. Okay, so I'm going to move us over to purple. So this is where this kind of goes in with the comments you guys have been giving, but looking at organization and navigation, this is an area where there did start to be some difficulties. So some general comments were given about just general navigation, but then there were comments about finding topics and the navigation menus themselves. So that was, I believe, on the top, but also on that right-hand side. And then some very specific comments just about the organization of the vision and guiding principles page. So I'll let you guys kind of look through these. I think we've heard some of them, and I could definitely respond to some of them as well. So the first one under general comments, there is a home button that's at the very top. We will look at getting that navigation menu bigger though, so it's clear. The only way we can have a back button is through your browser to go back that way. We did try to make all the links so they open in a new tab, which I did also see the comment of, or saw the comment of, well, if you open all 36 goals, that's a lot of tabs and you can get lost that way. But the idea was if it's at least a new tab, hopefully you can find your way back. But if you guys don't think that makes it easier and if it makes it harder, please let me know. I do also want to touch on the accessibility function. So that is, it could be on the left hand or right hand side of your screen, depending on your device at the upper corner. That is something that the town has rolled out for all of our town websites. So I really appreciate, and again, you guys are the first testers of these things because we haven't asked residents yet on how these are working. So I appreciate your comments on the accessibility menu, and we will follow up with our communications team to see what we can improve upon there. Dan.
I was looking at the home versus overview. If you wanted to work it out, why don't you combine the two? Because home doesn't really do anything, but the overview with the home, with the scrolling, kind of explains everything. The location, the visions, and why plan, and all that. So it's
I guess,
just seems like it's more efficient.
Yeah, and to clarify, so on the navigation menu, you're saying to combine them?
Yes, home and overview, at the top of the
Yeah.
of the thing.
Yeah, we can look at that. I don't recall if we're able to change the home one, but we can definitely look in that. Yeah.
Okay.
Other comments about organization or navigation? Let's see, or if you made any of those comments on the screen. So let me ask the group this. There were some comments on the vision and guiding principles page. Right now, they're ordered by topic areas, and they're ordered kind of in the same order they're shown on the website. So the community topics are first, then it goes to the sustainability, economy, and development topics. We did get some feedback on that maybe that instead they should be ordered by priority. So for instance, we know public safety, environment, those are top priorities. What are your thoughts on that? Rosa?
Be consistent. If you order them a certain way when they're presented to the person, then order them that way when you get to that page, because it gets really disorienting when you have chunks that are being rearranged on, it just, I find that I think I like to find everything, like if it's the first topic, I like to find it when I go to the guiding principles in the first place. So that way it helps, you could also probably link from the page that, that topic page to the guiding principle.
Yep.
But I would keep them all like in the exact same order, because it's so disorienting when people move things around. But, to that, you can then decide what order, you could ask people what order they think they should be in, like, hierarchy wise in terms of just like, what people, because I'm looking at it now and probably town finances, water maybe should be moved to the top, because those are the things people are most concerned about. Parks and Recreation is popular. So yeah, I mean, pick the order and then stick with it. That's what I would say.
Thank you. And yeah, and really good idea. We can definitely link the guiding principles to those pages so people can get to the goals that are associated with those quicker. How?
Yeah, the vision statement should be labeled as the vision statement, I think. I mean, it's got a different color, background color for it, and it's above the principles, but you read it and said, I guess this is the vision statement, but it doesn't say it's the vision statement. So it might be helpful to do that.
Yep. Nope. Good point. All right. Any other comments on navigation or organization of the information? All right. I'm going to move us over. So we did get some comments on what was working. And then, and if you want to go ahead with your hand raised, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, if you had a comment, I apologize if I missed you. Oh, I think there you go.
I think a lot of the comments are good and have substance and merit. But I think we also need to think about the level of expertise, the number of people who will be viewing this. We need to keep it as simple as possible. And I would recommend that because we all have been involved in this and have a modicum of expertise and understanding, why can't we find some, for lack of a better term, people off the street and have them go through it and obtain their reactions?
Yeah, so no, that's a really good point, and we did get some comments like that. So that is what we'll be launching next week. So it will go part of this review with the community. A 60% draft, you guys should all be proud of yourselves because that's a big milestone. but there's still work to be done, and the plan's going to change, the website will change. So as part of even going out to the community starting next week, we'll be asking folks to still comment on, if they're able to find information, comment on the photos, so we can continue to try to improve it. We appreciate, though, this kind of you all being a bit of a focus group, but absolutely agree is those people who maybe just moved to town and are just hearing about it for the first time will want to get their comments too. Keith?
Yeah, maybe it's just my phone, and maybe it doesn't happen on other people's phone, but when you click on the individual chapters like economy or sustainability or community, it doesn't go to that page. You have to click on one of the subfolders like introduction or public
You
safety.
do, yes.
Right? It seems like why wouldn't it do that?
So the top menu, yeah, and on your phone, it does look like an option. That's just kind of the umbrella for all the pages under that chat. So that's why there's the separate introduction page, and that is one of the constraints of the website. You can't
Okay.
just click on sustainability and have it go anywhere.
Yeah, it just seems a little confusing. So okay, thanks.
No, that's a really good point, and we'll have to try to explain that too in the navigation section so people are aware. Okay, so I'm not seeing other hands. I'm going to just keep moving us through. So in terms of the look and design, it seems like folks liked that there were a lot of photos, but again, on that side where some of the photos are too small, we will try to resize those as much as we can. And then in some instances, as you guys picked up or commented, the photos were too big and took up too much real estate. So we'll work on that. And then we did get making the text bigger. I did want to ask, there are a couple comments about making major headings or improving major headings. Were those comments to the navigation menu at the top, or were there other headings that you all felt needed to be improved? Rosa.
The chapter headings where there were multiple lines, there was a lot of space between the lines.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that's because of the font or whatever, but it seemed very difficult to read and it took up a lot of space and it just didn't seem to flow very good. So if that could be like, if you could mess with that font a little and try to, because I know if they're like sentences, like, and so that was the only thing that jumped out at me. It was that was a little like, it didn't look easy to read or, and the spacing is, I think, the biggest thing that was bothering me.
Okay. Yeah, we could definitely look into that. Another comment we got that we can look into ways to improve is all the tables that show the actions that go along with goals and policies. We heard from your guys' experience, it seems like they also don't always hold their size depending on device and what you're using. So we will look at different ways to make sure that each row is distinct from the other ones. So it's clear what each action goes with. Other comments about design or look? We did get some comments about the photos. So, like I said, we definitely, as you guys are throughout the next 6 weeks when we go live, that question asking if the photos accurately reflect what the words are saying will stay on there. So if you guys see photos that you're not interpreting to reflect the language, please let us know. And thanks, Jeff, for your comment about the photos. There might be too many because they do tend to, they could cut.
I thought
They
they were
take
great
up-
photos. They were
Yeah.
great photos, but like instead of having 4 somewhere, just pick the 2 best ones or something, just to get into the content.
Yeah.
They were good photos. They were really a lot of nice photos, but a lot of them.
Thanks, Jeff. And there are, to your point, there's definitely areas where there's like 4 policies all together and then 4 photos. So maybe, yeah, we just
Yeah.
need 1 photo for all
Just
4.
just
Yeah.
pick 1 or 2 really, 1 or 2 good ones and get into the content.
Okay. Michael and then Rosa.
Okay, so thanks, Muini. I'm gonna ring this bell again. I think it works really well on the phone. Again, I don't know whether it's visible next to my head here, and
Yeah.
if I turn the camera, that's what it looks like on the website compared to what it looks like on the phone. And the phone works really well. Yeah, there's a lot of scrolling, but that's what people do on their phones. So really, I'm saying I think it works great, especially on the phone. Thanks.
No, thank you. And I think to your and Rosa's point, we do wish the website almost looked like the phone, or you had that menu down at the bottom. So maybe we will be encouraging people to use the phone, from what I'm hearing from you guys. And then Rosa?
Yeah, so I pulled up one of them on the phone to see. So when you go to the phone, though, the circle pictures are not working as well as the square ones. So maybe you should just stick with the square because it's super, I don't know if you can see this, but it's super tiny, super tiny. There's the photo and then there's the policy. And like I said, if you can shrink that spacing a little bit, those policy statements just go on and on and on. And there's so much space between them. They take up like half of the phone, but those round circle ones aren't doing as well. So maybe I would just pick a shape and stick with it. Like those ones with the rounded square corners, maybe, because the scale is so off when the photo is this big and it's round and then the policy is this big. So that was what I was talking about in that comment where I said the scale was off. So I would just pick one shape. I mean, to someone else's point, people are going to come in here cold. And
Yeah.
one of the things I learned when I used to review websites is the programmers used to use every bell, every shape of every button and every single thing. We used to like have to go in there and go, pick a shape, pick one color, like pick everything. And then, they would get bored, because they wanted to like it to, but to the person who's coming in cold, that like boredom helps them. It makes them feel secure. It makes them feel like the color being the same makes it feel like parity. Everything has the same UAID, and the sizes of the photos make it seem like every chapter is the same or every section has the same type of importance. So anyway, I would just say the circles aren't working.
Thanks, Rosa. Sherry?
Yeah, just another comment on using it on your phone. If you change the orientation from portrait to landscape, it works a lot better.
Yes, thank you. So a question for you guys, and we don't want to keep adding more information, but on some of the pages, we did add a disclaimer to the top saying, if you're using this on a phone, please use full screen or landscape mode, because there are pages, and that's where I think the circles may come out a little bit better. I might be wrong. That if you flip your phone, they do seem to
It
come.
works better. Yeah. Yep.
But I hear your point, and I see it in the chat as well, as we want to make sure people focus on the content and the words and don't get distracted or put off by the photos not being visible. And see more comments in the chat about being consistent. And then James, I think if I may ask you, you had the comment of it's difficult to make comments on the phone. Are you talking about the discussion questions at the bottom of the pages of trying to comment on there. And if you want to unmute yourself.
Someone's looking on the phone and reading, and they want to go to make a comment on it, it's not easy to type on a phone.
Hmm.
So, I mean, you can't force them not to do that, but if they really want to get into it, they have to have a laptop or desktop. And I think you said that in the beginning, that you're going to say best viewed on a laptop or desktop. But, typing on a phone, we all know is not fun.
No, that's a fair point. And one thing too is our number one goal with this big community review is to make sure first that all residents are aware that the draft plan is out, but also make it super easy for folks to read the plan and comment on it. So they can go online to comment, but everyone's welcome to also mail in comments, drop them off. We'll have informational booths around town. So, and then also submit comments or meet with staff, excuse me, to discuss the plan. So hopefully between all four ways, folks who want to provide comments are able to. Sherry?
Yeah, this was also put in the chat. Every time you open or click on a page, it opens a tab if you're on the computer and on the phone. So pretty soon you get like today when I was playing with it, I had like 15 tabs open. So theoretically, your software should be cleaning up in the background. It shouldn't be leaving all those tabs open. Is that something that can get fixed, or is that another constraint of the software you're using?
That I'm not sure. I can definitely look into that of cleaning up the tabs. If it's not something that can be done, do you guys think it's more beneficial for them to be able to open things in a new tab, or to just, your normal thing is when you click on a link, it just changes the page you're on.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that?
That's a really hard call,
Yeah,
because
okay.
then you end up using the back button, but I agree with that. When I was looking at this yesterday, the day before, I ended up with like 30 tabs open. And I don't know, and at that point, they're not labeled enough so that I can tell which one was which, because you can't read them anymore. But the alternative is then if you just replace the page you're looking at, then I wanted to go back 3 pages, and there's no win-win there. It's just it's a lose-lose. Either you end up with a bunch of open tabs, or you can't find out where you just were.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my view anyway.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure. Yeah, we'll look into definitely of the cleaning up the tabs and see if that's a possibility, because that sounds like it'd be ideal. But
It could end up being a performance issue too. If you have all these people who are opening all these things on their phone, might get kind of hairy.
Yep. And then Andy?
Yeah, this was something that I noticed, and on many of the pages, when I clicked on a link and it opened a new tab, I was on a laptop.
Mm-hmm.
And I was glad. I thought, oh, good, it's opening a new tab. And if I remember right, the main page, when I clicked on it, I can't tell you which link it was, probably to our water resources or sustainability. It didn't create a new tab, and I was a little frustrated because so if I were to suggest something, it might be to have links that are on that first main page create a new tab. But anything other than that main page would use the same tab. So that way you have the main, starting point preserved. That's about all I can suggest.
Yeah.
It is a difficult thing to
And we
compromise.
yeah. And that's a good point, is most people are gonna wanna find their way back to the main page. So we definitely will look into making sure all those links can open in a new tab.
How many total pages are there? I'm just thinking about what Andy just said. Is somebody gonna have to go back and edit 85 pages then to say this one stays, this one opens a new tab? Do-
So yes,
Nice.
but
I mean,
so right now
maybe-
there's around 70 something pages. But the change to the main page we can do in terms of trying to
Yeah.
make sure those open and new. Now, if the group feels that all the pages should stay on the page they're in, that would require a little bit more changes. I will say, and just something to throw out here is, there the goals are interrelated. So there might be some people who want to open the water resource planning goal, and they also want the water conservation goal or the development goal open at the same time so they can kind of see the full picture. Same with trails and environmental resources, they go together. So that's another reason we kept them opening on different tabs, is if somebody kind of wanted to see all the relationships going on in the plan in one without having to go back and forth. But just something
I like Andy's comment. I'm just wondering if he's volunteering to go and change the links in 70 different pages, or whatever the final number is going to be, because there's a lot of a lot of pages.
No, we'll
Not
look at it.
volunteering.
And I agree with well, yeah, we can definitely take a look and see what ones maybe should open in new tabs, but maybe not everything needs to open in a new tab to help kind of balance that out. It's a good point. All right, other comments? And if you haven't had a chance to speak or participate and you have a comment, maybe not on this, but just in general on the website, please feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. But I will move us on for now. So we did get just kind of general ideas moving forward. So features, so a great idea of recording a webinar. So we will definitely look into that, of just even instructional of navigating the site that we can post on the website. That would probably be helpful. Getting more feedback on the accessibility feature. Definitely we'll want to do that. And like I said, we'll look in with our communications department about some of the features in terms of being even able to read the website. And then and I think, and as some of you pointed out, having an executive summary or the way to quickly get an idea of what's in the plan and the scope of it, because it is fairly large and comprehensive. And then with the search function, appreciate who made the comment on that. We haven't had a whole lot of experience with it, so it's good to know that it's not catching everything. So we'll definitely look into that. And if anybody else tested out the search function and have feedback, let us know. And then there are other comments about making sure this is accessible, which I'll get to in a moment, of all the promotion that will be done. And like I said, we'll be asking the broader community too to give feedback on the website. Yep, and another vote for an executive summary. So yeah, we can definitely get that out so that folks can have an idea of the full scope of this plan. All right, Frank, and then Andy.
I'm just thinking as I went over the whole plan, it was really overwhelming to me. Of course, I'm easily overwhelmed in terms of its magnitude and its complexity. But I'm thinking that the average Oro Valley resident that wants to participate, there's some risk of losing them just by the size of the project. And I think we definitely don't want that to happen. So along that line, I noticed the overview chapter has a subsection called Why Plan.
Mhm.
And I thought that some of the text in there was almost inspirational to lead the resident to try to do a good job of absorbing as much of the plan as they feel qualified to and are interested in doing. But I'd like to see that logic of why plan emphasized more in the beginning to get people's attention.
That's a good point. Yep. We could add some of that language to the home screen too, the importance of it and why it's so comprehensive. Okay. And then Andy?
Yeah, I have two thoughts, see if I can remember both of them. One is I like the look of the website, but the lots of bold headings and pictures and menus make it not very dense. And I was just wondering, elsewhere people have suggested a one-page summary or things like that, and I wonder about that possibility, like if you could have a way to just read a dense text summary. I wonder how much you could cover in a single-sided page. I don't know what the equivalent would be on various screens, but anyway, I just wonder about that. If a person said, like a text-only version,
Mhm.
how maybe that would actually be easy and fast to just scan for someone who's a good reader. That's the first idea. I'm not saying replace everything. I'm just saying as an alternative, like you have the option for a PDF version to print it. Maybe there's a way to offer that. And then the second idea, I think I remember either just in this meeting or in the email, anyway, a comment that no, there's no chatbot. And I was totally fine with that. And I'm not all gung-ho on chatbots. They can be really terrible and they can be a little bit unpredictable if you're not careful. But it is a way to try to deal with a lot of text and helping people find what they're interested in. And people are generally good at conversation. If the chatbot is up to it, it can be a good way to find information of interest and present it in a conversational way that people find accessible. But if it's implemented poorly, then it could be a real disaster. But maybe it could be considered. And of course, it would cost money and stuff. But I wouldn't totally rule it out, without at least a little consideration. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Andy. And yeah, we did get a comment from somebody else about maybe implementing a chatbot. We could explore that. I am just not sure if that's even an option that
Yeah.
the website provider offers, but yeah, good point. Maureen.
Well, I had a question. You mentioned the PDF a couple of times, and it seems to be almost an afterthought, but I love PDFs, especially if they're bookmarked. So will the PDF be bookmarked? Because then you can go to individual topics within the PDF very easily.
So by bookmarked, let me make sure I'm clear. Do you mean within the PDF, if you are in the table of contents and want to just jump to public safety, you can get to that section?
Pretty much, yeah. And often with
Yep.
the bookmark PDFs, you'll have the bookmark is kind of like that table of contents that runs down the side, almost, it could be in a separate window, depending on what software you're using to do the bookmarking. And it's a little tedious to get everything bookmarked, but then it just immediately hot links you to that particular page. So if there's confusion, like if trails show up in 4 different places, you can usually quickly scan through those bookmarks and say, oh, trails. Okay, I'll hit there. Oh, let me go back to the bookmark. Oh, here's something else on trails. Again, I know the focus of this meeting has been on the website and not the PDF, but I'm not an icon kind of person. I love to see letters and numbers. and pictures are, they're okay. So again, that's just, kind of the way I approach the world. So that idea of the bookmark PDF, I just love those.
Well, I appreciate you bringing up the PDF. I will say it wasn't the afterthought. We actually created the PDF first and then transformed it to the website, which had some fun in itself of doing that. But the PDF will be linked. I will have to look more into the bookmarked, but if you are in a section and there's a related goal, you can click on it and it will go to that page. But it also, to your point, I think helps add some organization because it's very linear in terms of like, and Rosa, you brought this up earlier, which we don't have on the website now because we weren't sure if it would make sense on a website. But for instance, chapter 3 is community, chapter 4 is sustainability. It has that kind of sequence to it. So hopefully, even if people do not want to read or download the PDF, that could also be just a resource for folks to kind of get even an idea of the sheer scope of the plan. And I will tell you, Maureen, the PDF right now has no images and no photos. So all text for now anyways. Oh, and thank you, somebody who said that that Adobe Acrobat Pro can do the bookmarks automatically. So yeah, we'll look into that. Okay, and then yeah, maybe the website can offer an option to hide photos. We can look into that as well, because that also could save space. And then Rosa?
So, I mean, I just wanted to reiterate what Maureen said is a good point. The whole purpose is to get people familiar with the plan.
Right.
So some people may not want to navigate a website. They may want to navigate a document. And as long as that is something you can incorporate, as like a choice, I think that you might find that a lot more will go just to the document and just want to read it, rather than navigate all over the place. It just depends, but I think that that's a really good point. Some people may just want to read the document. And so that might be a well-used tool. And then that video introduction type thing, I really like them a lot because you can cover a lot of things in a short period of time. So that's another really good idea for people coming in cold and not having any familiarity with this. So, I mean, I think these are all really good ideas. And if you have limitations with the website, I think, like I said, having everything like right at the top where you could have that choice to go to the PDF, I think some people may just go to the PDF. So.
Yeah, we could definitely. So we'll definitely have the PDF linked on every page. But to your point, Rosa, we'll make sure it's even a link to the homepage. So it's very clear even at the top that that's an option. Andy?
Yeah, about the idea of the videos, that seems attractive to me. I mean, maybe it seems like we're chasing after every bell and whistle, but it can be very inviting or engaging, personal. But I'm thinking, especially if the people are people in the community that it's actually I don't know, it's actually useful or desirable to introduce citizens to certain people in the community. If it's something you want to encourage, that kind of interaction with city staff or council or something, then I would say all the more reason to consider that. But if staff kind of come through and then likely as not, the person who made the video is not going to be around anymore. I mean, you just never know, but there'd be less reason to do that. Just some thoughts. Thanks.
Yeah, and so I will say the video, we'd want to focus more on the community and what's in the plan and how to navigate it versus staff. And one reason is this really is your guys' plan, the residents. We're here really as the conductors to try to bring it all together. So for the video for this part, we could definitely do it more instructional about navigating the site, but I will let you know, we do have before the vote, budget to create a very nice, like almost not ad, but a more professional video. So we can look into that too. So there'll be a couple opportunities to have videos on the website, as it sounds like that's where those might help a lot of this out. Matt?
Yeah, thanks. This is very complicated, but if we can make it easy for our constituents to understand, it's gonna really be good for us. So, I like why should I vote for this on the frequently asked questions, just, what's in it for me? And that's the best way, I think, to get this across and to get everybody to feel comfortable with it and to realize that we are trying to do something good for the community. We're not trying to bamboozle anybody. So those are my thoughts.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so we will try to make that, or we will make that more apparent on the homepage. Especially as to all you said, once they get there, why should they care? And trying to explain that better. And we'll definitely look in the video options for now and even also into the future. Okay, any other comments? Again, especially if we haven't had a chance to hear from you yet, please feel free to raise your hand or put them in the chat. Not seeing any hands, so, oh, sorry. So James asked if the plan is a government requirement. So yes, state law does require every jurisdiction to have a plan in place every 10 years. So every 10 years, it has to be updated or redone, if you will. So it is a requirement for the town as a government entity to have the plan, but it's also very important and required by the state that residents are included in it. And for us, especially in Oro Valley, it's very important that this entire effort is driven by you all, the residents, that it really is your plan. And that's also why the state this is really the only planning effort that goes to the voters. Most are approved either by Planning and Zoning Commission or Town Council. For this one, it does it goes ultimately to the voters for approval. Maureen and then James.
Again, this is a little off topic, but I don't know if you've been keeping notes as you've gone through, because this has been an amazing process from start to where we are now and where it will conclude, to kind of document the process that you've gone through and how changes have come about. Because I think in your professional world, you might be looking to present this at conferences or put this as journal articles, because as others are grappling with how do I do this now digitally? And how do I move, community forward? I think this could be very instructive. So I encourage you to be, keeping very good notes and look to share it, beyond just having the plan for the citizens to vote on.
Yeah, thank you, Maureen. Yeah, we'll definitely look into it. And that's why I appreciate the online meetings. I know because we have that extra level of transparency when they're online in terms of recording them and getting all the notes. So I appreciate all of you bearing with the online meetings. James?
So not to make it overbearing, but we think it's really good in the beginning to say how this process is required by the government and why, and that you're going to vote on it, a nice paragraph that explains why we're doing it.
Yep. Okay.
As an external requirement.
Got it.
And is there going to be any benefit? Is anybody in the state going to read it?
No, I don't think they do. Unless somebody, no, I don't think they read them. But I could be wrong. Yeah, Andy, love your idea of having people in the videos be volunteers or people from the community. Um, yeah, we can definitely include in that maybe executive summary that it's a state requirement, and that it is something that has to be done every 10 years. So we can take, I think what I'm hearing from you guys is we need to take kind of the key points from maybe each section and put it into an executive summary to give a really quick overview of what all of this is, because there's so much information. All right, other comments, or if not, I will switch back to the presentation. All right, so kind of just to wrap us up here is, again, the big community review. It's going to kick off next week. And this is where we will be promoting it to the entire community to get their feedback, not only on website functionality, but this is also your opportunity to comment on the content of the plan, because it will be more final, the draft will be more finalized by Monday. We'll be promoting it to the community. You'll see the signs go back up along the roads. Hopefully you all get a postcard in the mail. We'll be doing events and informational booths around town. There's also Community Academy. So I know many of you have been in Community Academy before, but you're always welcome to take it again. And I will let you know there are new classes being offered this year. You can also audit classes, so you don't have to sign up to take all of them if you do not want. You can find more information about Community Academy on the homepage of OV Path Forward right now. We'll also be getting a lot of press out for this as well. And like I said earlier, the website is just one way people can get their comments and read the plan. They could definitely open and download the PDF. They could mail comments in, drop them off, and meet with staff as well. But with that said, we need your help to spread the word. So if you are part of an HOA, a park group, a trail group, or if you have events that you go to, please let us know. We'd love to be invited. We also can give you flyers. So I know many of you who were ambassadors during our phase 1 helps by having flyers, passing them out to your neighbors. And then, of course, if there's other ideas, let us know. And then, Jeff, did you have a comment?
Well, I had a question because there are several places where you read that the input people can provide input by, I guess, setting up individual meetings, or I forget exactly what the word is, how that's worded. What does that actually mean? I mean, are you actually going to be taking individual people in on appointment to talk to you? You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember what the exact word. How is that going to play out, and is that practical?
Yeah, so we've actually been doing that throughout the whole last 2 years. So not everybody's gonna want to. Most people will just find an informational booth. Like we'll be at the farmer's market and stop and talk. But if anybody wants to set up a one-on-one meeting with staff, we're available. And usually, and I think a couple of those on the call, we've met with you offline one-on-one after the resident working group meetings just to discuss, especially if you have a lot of questions or a lot of comments. Sometimes that's just easier. So we make ourselves available. To your point, if we get like 30,000 people wanting to meet, then we would know we need to do another online meeting or even some type of event specifically for this and invite folks there. So, but it is an option. So next steps, where we're headed. So after the community comment period, there will be some time to refine the plan based on those community comments. That's when we're going to be asking all of you and all the other resident working group participants to reconvene in December. And I do want to, I do want to let you know that these resident working group meetings in December are open to all residents. So even folks that didn't participate in the spring are invited to participate in December. But these meetings, unlike those in the spring, we're not going to divide into 4 different groups. Everybody will stay in one group, and that's because the focus of this is really on the entirety of the plan. And the aim of these meetings are to achieve consensus on the 90% draft, which will also be known as the resident recommended draft. The resident recommended draft is what will be presented to commission and council and start going through the public hearing process. Once the public hearing process is done, which we estimate to be around summer of 2026, and that's when we'll be asking council for approval on the resident recommended or the resident draft. That really signifies that it's ready to be on the ballot in November of 2026. And so that's kind of our trajectory moving ahead. As you can see, the plan will continue to evolve until we get to that 100% draft. Are there any questions? Okay, with that said, I, as always, promise to get you out on time, and we're even 9 minutes early. So I want to thank you all for your time. Please make sure you continue to add your comments and on the plan and on the website over the next 6 weeks. And if all of you want to meet one-on-one, we're here. So thank you and have a good night.
All right, thanks. Bye.